guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. This video is actually super duper exciting for me, and I think it's going to be super duper helpful for you guys, because in today's video I'm going to be giving you your first book from each genre. I have enlisted a few beginner friendly genres, and then I have taken out a couple of books which is going to be your first book from that genre. You can read it to try that genre out, whether the genre is meant for you or not. Or I actually get a lot of comments that this is the kind of books that I want to start reading, this is the genre that I want to start reading, which book should I read? And while I make a lot of beginner friendly videos, I will link an entire playlist in the description. You can go and check it out. I do understand that if you are a complete beginner, it is very difficult to actually watch these long videos with these so many recommendations and then choose one out of them. So I'm doing the job for you over here. I do not mean to say that these books have to be your first book, which is why I'm linking the playlist in the description, so you can go and check out other beginner friendly books from all these various genres. But if you are having decision fatigue, if you are like, I really don't know where to start from, I just wish someone gave me just one book to understand what the vibe of the genre is, then this is your video. This video is officially the first video I am making for 2023 in a hoodie, and I am so excited about it. It's actually genuinely cold. I feel like in the 24-hour readathon video that I did, I was forcing it to be winters. I was forcing it to be cold. Don't get me wrong, it was a little bit chilly. The sun was still setting very early, so it did give me the winter vibes. But now it is actually cold, and I am so excited about it. But that is not what the video is about. Let's begin the video. The first book I want to recommend is if you want to understand why you should be reading fiction books in the first place. Why even start with it? Why even start reading? What is the magic of fiction? And the book is The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. This is the perfect book that will help you to understand why fiction books literally change lives and move you and make you feel things. This one again is very easy to read, and the best book you can read to understand all of these things. And then the first genre I'm going to talk about is romantasy, which is fantasy romance. Romance fantasy slowly is becoming one of my most favorite genres ever, and I think it has the power to make you a reader. And the book I have for you is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I have read quite a few fantasy romances till now, and it is definitely one of my most favorite genres ever, but Powerless has just stood out. It is literally one of the best books that I've ever read in my entire life. It has a slow burn romance, it has enemies to lovers romance, which is the best kind of fantasy romance. But along with that, it is not only romance, it also has good fantasy in it. Also, the world building in the book is not extremely heavy, which can be one of the problems when you're starting up with fantasy. The words can be difficult, the world building can be too much information, and those things are not there in this book. So I think this can be the perfect one for you. In this book, we have our main character Pei, who is an ordinary, and then we have our main male character Kai, who is an elite. And in this world, according to the elite, ordinaries are some sort of like disease. They will lead to the extinction of elites, and so the elites kill the ordinaries, which is why our Kai is actually supposed to kill Pei, because Pei is an ordinary. It is definitely a little complicated for me to explain what the book is about. When it comes to any fantasy book, it's actually complicated, but trust me on this is the best fantasy romance you will ever read. Do keep in mind though that this is the first book in a series, so if that is a problem for you, I'm sorry. Next up we have fantasy, and the first book that I will recommend is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This one again is so easy to read. It is completely beginner friendly, and the world building is not very heavy. The words are not very difficult. Yes, a couple of words here and there just go above your head. The names go above your head, and the creatures, sometimes you may not know what that creature actually is, so you will have to Google it. But this is a good intro to what the fantasy genre can be like. The things that you can expect, the kind of names you can expect, the kind of words you can expect, the fact that there are multiple creatures. This is also a cozy fantasy, so the stakes are not very high, and by the stakes I mean there's no life and death situation, which keeps things a little bit calm. And so I think this is amazing for you if you're a beginner. But if you're the kind of person who wants to read a book that does not keep you calm, that keeps you on your toes, then I would recommend you the Six of Crows duology or the Harry Potter series. Fantasy, the series are long, they're really long. It's really nice that Six of Crows is just 2 books, and it is definitely beginner friendly. The stakes are quite high in those books, and it has the found family trope, which means different characters from various backgrounds come together to solve a mission, to solve a heist. And it is also interesting, but at the same time you must remember the first 150 pages, you are not alone. If you do not understand anything at all as to what is going on, or you do not understand the words, the names, you're not able to pronounce them, things like that, it is completely normal. That is what happens with me also. That is what happens with literally the best fantasy reader too. If you be patient, after a certain point you will actually genuinely start to enjoy the story and you will connect to the characters. And then after that only I recommend, or even for YA fantasy, I recommend the Harry Potter series, which is definitely way more beginner friendly than the Six of Crows duology, but it has 7 books in it, which is a lot of books, and one book in the middle, like the Order of Phoenix, has 800 pages in it, so it's very long. It's on you to decide whether you want a long series which is actually easy to read, or you want a short series which is a little bit difficult but very interesting and fast paced, and you can get through it very easily. And with that we come to the conclusion of all of the fantasy books. Next we come to the entire thriller umbrella, where we have thrillers, we have crime, we have psychological, all those sorts of books, and I have 1 to 2 recommendations for each of those tropes or those types or those genres of books. First up we have thriller itself. A thriller book is supposed to thrill you, it's supposed to be twisted, it's supposed to be dark. You get this adrenaline rush when you read a thriller book. And the books that I think can be your first book is one, The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This one is super duper short and it is so bingeable. You will not want to stop reading it. You will want to know what is going to happen in the end. It is also very twisted, the things that happen in this, and it is very fast paced given that it is short, and the plot twist is amazing. It may be a little bit predictable, but it is completely amazing. I don't think that if this is your first book it will be that predictable, which is why I recommend that. But if you want a deeper sense of what a dark thriller can be like, you already watch such movies and you already enjoy it a lot and you have some idea of what it can be like, I would recommend you The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This is the story of this girl who reads a book and gives it a 1-star review, and the author of that book actually starts stalking her to kill her because of that 1-star review. This one is intensely fast paced. The adrenaline rush that I got after this is unmatched. I have not read any other book that gave me this sort of a rush, and this is what I would want from a proper thriller, the slasher vibes that you get, and it's also very very twisted. It's extremely twisted. So if you're ready to see what that is like, this is your book. Then we come to crime thrillers. So the first book I have for you is Agatha Christie, The Murder on the Orient Express. There's no the, it's just Murder on the Orient Express. This is the story of passengers on the Orient Express, and then we have Hercule Poirot, which later, if you do get into the Agatha Christie world, you come to know is this Agatha Christie detective who is so amazing. The more books you read of Hercule Poirot, the more you fall in love with him. But you can definitely start with this one, and then a murder takes place on the Orient Express and Hercule Poirot is on the train, and now he's supposed to solve the murder. So this is crime fiction at its peak. It is amazing, it is short, it is easy to read, and it is fast paced. I must say that Agatha Christie is a very old author. I think this was probably written in the 19 something, so the English may be a little bit difficult to get into. Please know that that is normal even if you are an avid reader, because the English is different, but it is completely normal, and if you get used to it, it is very easy to read. And then if you want a crime fiction that is not only a crime fiction, you don't just want a fast paced story, you want a book that gives you characters you can root for, you want a book that makes you feel things even if it is a crime fiction, you want a book that will stay with you forever, then we have Wrong Place, Wrong Time, which is my recent obsession. It is extremely easy to read. It has time travel in it. It is the story of a mother who sees her son killing someone through the window, and she now travels to the past to prevent that murder. That is all I can tell you, but it is so much more than that. Even though this book is not the epitome of what crime fiction can be like, even though there is a crime, it is crime fiction, there is a crime being solved, it is definitely the epitome of what a book can be, how a book can make you feel even when there is a murder taking place and even when there is a crime being solved, and there are themes of motherhood, parenthood in it. There is some other things which I can't say, but it is just so beautiful, and it is beginner friendly. The time traveling, not difficult at all. The sci-fi part, not difficult at all. So I highly recommend this one. And then we have psychological thrillers. Psychological thrillers are thrillers that mess with your psychology, as the name suggests. You're reading something, you don't know what is going on, you have to wait for the plot twist, but it's not just the plot twist that matters. The entire book is going to mess with your head like hell, and you are just going to be like, oh my god, just tell me what is going to happen, just like tell me what is going to happen. And it is dark and it is eerie and it makes you feel uncomfortable, but in the best way possible if you like this genre. So I actually have 3 recommendations in this genre. First, we have Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, which is a story of a sister that dies and the second sister comes into town to understand what actually happened and how her sister actually died, and then you get into the story of what happened with this sister and the sister that died. That is all I can tell you. This one has a multiple POV. I think in multiple POV sometimes the information can be repeated and it can become a little bit boring to read, but this one is not like that. It is the perfect psychological fiction. If this is your first psychological fiction, I am not telling you you won't get confused, okay? That's not what I am committing to over here. What I am telling you is that it will be worth it. What I am telling you is that even the journey is going to be amazing because the writing style is so good, and what I am telling you is that it will creep you out. The next psychological thriller I have for you is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. This is the story of Sally Diamond, who, when her father dies, burns his body with trash because her father joked about it once with her and she took it seriously. And Sally Diamond is quite strange in the beginning of the book, but then as you read ahead, you come to know why she is the way she is, why she is so strange. This one was written so amazingly. I was not bored at any point. The only thing with this one why I'm recommending it second is because there are multiple POVs in this also, 2 POVs, and the repetition of information can get a little bit boring, and so I'm recommending it second. But that does not mean that it's not an amazing book. Into the Water is crime psychological thriller. This is just a psychological thriller and I think you will love it. Then I have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager for you. This one actually gave me chills. When I was reading it, I was just like, it's the story of this woman who is across the lake and she's looking at the house across the lake, and this couple that is living her dream life, but then something happens after which everything changes. Spooky book, this is your book. And then we have mystery thrillers. The first book obviously I'll recommend is Rock Paper Scissors. This book has the power to make you a reader. Oh, I love this book so much. And the other book is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, which again has the power to make you a reader, because I think this was my first mystery thriller book that just shocked me so much, shocked me to my core, after which I started chasing this genre. Both these books are domestic thrillers. Both these books have couples involved. Both these books have some misunderstanding between the couples, and that is all I'm going to tell you. But both these books are not what they tell you they are from the blurb or from what I am telling you. There's so much more than that. Throughout the book you will pull your hair because you will want to know what is going to happen, but the ending of both the books are worth it, and obviously they're easy to read. In the end, we have a YA thriller, and there is no other book I can recommend except A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. If you want to get into the other 2 books, you can, but those are adult books, I must warn you. It's not just easy to read and super engaging, but also it's written in a way where you are genuinely inside the book. For example, there are forms and there are little photocopies of those evidence. If there is an interview going on, it will be written in interview style. There are so many conversations going on, so you don't get bored at all in the book, and the ending is also amazing in this one. Along with that, you get connected to the character. Pippa and Ravi, they're literally the most adorable, and this one, yes, has the power to make you a reader. Next, we have literary fiction, which is one of my most favorite genres, and I am going to make a complete separate video of how you can be a literary fiction reader as a beginner, because literary fiction as a genre can be very intimidating, but it is so amazing that I really want everybody to read, and so I've included it in this video too. I have the best books for you. If you're looking for an adult literary fiction, there is no other better book than Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. This is the story of 4 sisters, and then there is a man and something happens because of which that man comes between these 4 sisters. That is all I will tell you. Of course, you can read the blurb also if you want to, but I would say that you go into the book completely blind. I felt like the blurb gave away a lot of this book. Even then, the writing was so amazing. The thing with literary fiction is that it can make the characters feel extremely real. They have flaws and they are not perfect, and it is not a picture perfect fiction world. Literary fictions tend to be slow, but this one is not that slow. It is definitely fast paced too, and it's just one of the best books ever. It just makes you feel so many things. And if you want a YA literary fiction, if you are a teenager, then you can read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a story of Star who sees her best friend die in front of her eyes, and she is the only one who knows what actually happened. But if she goes to the police, she is risking her entire community. If she does not go to the police, then she is betraying her best friend, her dead best friend, and you get to see what Star does and how the story unravels. So emotional, deeply engaging, and so it does not get boring at all. But this too is a literary fiction, so I think it is a great introduction to what the genre can hold. And as you read more and more books in the literary fiction genre, it just gets better. Once you get an understanding of what literary fiction is and you open yourself up to slow paced books, it is a whole world, beautiful world out there. Next up we have romance, starting with YA. If you want to read a YA tragedy, you have If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. The horrible thing happens in the first couple of pages, and then you follow the life of Autumn and Finn, and it is only from the perspective of Autumn, which just breaks my heart because I wish we had Finn too. But that does not mean that you don't literally know what Finn is like, which is so amazing, because that means that the writing style is so beautiful. It's also very mundane. So many things, like normal things that go on in high school, but not in India, okay, because I don't think it's very relatable as a person who went to an Indian high school at all. But that does not mean that the book is not fun, and the tragedy, it will stay with you. It haunted me for days. And if you want a YA rom-com, we have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. No better YA rom-com out there. If you like rom-com movies, if you like the rom-com vibe, if you want an enemies to lovers, a friends to enemies to lovers, it's everything is in here. I won't even tell you what the story is about because you don't need to know. If you like rom-coms and if you want to read a young adult book, this is your book. Then we come to adult romance. The first book I would recommend is The Roughest Draft. This is the story of two writers who have the commitment to write one last book together, but they are enemies. There is dual POV in this, which makes it so easy but also so intensely amazing. It has slow burn in it. It has no spice in it. So if you're looking for that sort of an adult romance, this is your book, and it's beginner friendly. The heat and the angst is just out of the world. If you're looking for an adult romance, opposites attract, small town romance, and you want spice, we have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Super spicy, but not in a way where there's just spice involved. So many more amazing things are happening in the book. The captain, the main guy, is so good, and I love the main female character too. So overall it gives you all of the feels, and it's just so adorable in so many places. This book is one of the best adult books that I have read with spice. I love it from the core of my heart. In the end, if you want moderate spice and a fast-paced, very rom-com but like very chill book, then you have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. It is a STEM romance. It has fake dating in it. It is a story of Olive who kisses her professor, and things just unravel from there basically. I'm not gonna tell you more because I want you to go into it blind, but if you want an adult romance which is all choochie but choochie, this is literally the most cute book ever. Next up we have historical fiction. Historical fiction is such an interesting genre because you also get to see some things that did not happen in our time. It happened so long back, and though these are fiction books, they sort of depict those times in a fictional way, so you do get to see what actually happened in those times. Historical fiction can be slow paced and boring sometimes, but these two books are not, and so I think they're great to be your first book to understand whether you like this genre or not. First we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, the most fast-paced, emotional, amazing book ever. Evelyn Hugo is amazing. It is the story of the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And the second book I have for you is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. This one is more slow-paced. This one has way more details, but it's also tragic and it's also sad, and it also makes you just want to go inside a hole and never come outside. So the way this book makes you feel is just so intense that you will want to read more books. It's a story of Amir and Hassan, who are two best friends when they are children, but something really horrible happens after which their friendship takes a hit. It also has a backdrop of Afghanistan when the Taliban came to Afghanistan, and it is so tragic but so beautifully written. Even though it is detail heavy, it's definitely beginner friendly. Next is classic, and if you are a beginner, and you want to start reading classic books, the first book that you can pick up is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is the story of 4 sisters and their journey through life with their mother while their father is at the border fighting. Hello Beautiful is actually sort of derived from this book. This is the classic version. If you've already read Hello Beautiful and you enjoyed it, then you will enjoy that book a lot. Then we have Japanese fiction. If you want to start with Japanese fiction, you can read Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this is an entire series. So if you read this book, you can also go ahead with the other books and see if Japanese fiction is really your cup of coffee. Time traveling element to it, the emotions that Japanese fiction talks about, the emotions of regret, but also the book in all being a very comforting, beautiful read. That is what Japanese fiction is like. In this book, you can travel back to time, but you cannot change what happens over there, and you have to come back before the coffee gets cold. When it comes to Korean fiction, I would like to recommend Almond by Won Pyung-son. This is the story of a little boy who does not have any feelings. Does not have any feelings. This is a story of a little boy who cannot feel any feelings because he has a condition, and he sees his mother and his grandmother die in front of his eyes, and then you follow his journey. This also can be counted as a literary fiction, just so you see what it is like, that how literary fiction can make you feel. And it's super easy, and it is YA, so even teenagers can read it. And then if you are looking for a book that has literally no genre in it, if you're the kind of person who watches those movies that are just vibes, not exactly stories, if you want something completely different, if you want to shake yourself up, then this is your book. We have Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, translated by Anton Hur. This is a collection of short stories, and they are all too weird, is all I can say. There is sci-fi, there's magical realism, literally out of the world. Next up, we have Greek mythology, and the first 2 books that I would like to recommend can be Girl, Goddess, Queen if you want a huge book. The language is so easy, even if it is a big book, that is just, I binged it in 2 days. It's a story of Persephone, who everybody says that she actually was taken to hell by Hades, who is the king of the underworld, but when you read this book, you come to know that she actually jumped into hell because she wanted to. And it's all so interesting, and she goes from being a girl, a goddess, to a queen, and it's literally the best book ever. It also has this mini subplot of romance in it, which keeps it so interesting, and Hades is literally the best. So it's very engaging for a Greek mythology. Or you can also read Song of Achilles, which is proper Greek mythology, and it can be slightly difficult to get into, but it is a very self-sufficient book, where even though it revolves around the Trojan War, which is one of the biggest events that happens in Greek mythology, you don't have to know a lot about the Trojan War. The book itself explains it quite properly what the Trojan War was, and it's also this romance tragedy book, and it's so emotional. The Song of Achilles is the story of Achilles and Patroclus, who have said to be companions, but Madeline Miller has a different take on it, and we see their love. In the end, we have Indian mythology, and the first book you can read is Forest of Enchantments by Chitra Banerjee Devakarani. I would recommend you any of the Amish books, but they're all series. This is the story of Ramayana, but told from the perspective of Sita, and the whole thing where her voice is so empowered in this book itself makes it so interesting. But apart from that, also you get a glimpse of what Indian mythology can look like. It was so beautifully written, and this one is definitely detailed, but it's detailed in a way that will make you want to know more and make you want to read more. Also, it's very emotionally engaging, so emotionally engaging, and just it was so powerful when I read this book. That feeling is still there. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. I really hope you got at least one recommendation out of it, and that's it. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Bye.